Well, wouldn't be Friday without another big development in the Nancy Guthrie case. And as it turns out, there's yet another.
There is a phone somewhere, hidden, stashed in a location that one anonymous person claims only they know how to find. On that phone, according to the latest communication sent to TMZ's Harvey Levin, is a short video, of Nancy Guthrie, and the man who was almost certainly with her on the last day she was alive. Let that settle for a moment. 5 months have passed since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her bed in the middle of the night. 5 months of searches, of silence, of ransom notes that seemed to evaporate the moment anyone tried to follow them. 5 months of a family waiting for answers that keep arriving in the form of cryptic emails demanding cryptocurrency from a media outlet instead of law enforcement. And now this. A claim so specific, so layered with detail, that it either represents the most significant break in this case since the beginning, or the cruelest, most calculated manipulation anyone has attempted yet. Harvey Levin did not sensationalize it. He laid it out plainly, the way he has done every single time one of these communications has landed in his inbox. The sender, whoever they are, used the same alias they have used before. They reference the same Bitcoin wallet address from earlier contacts. These are not coincidences. This is the same person who has been reaching out to TMZ repeatedly over the course of this investigation, each time raising the stakes just enough to keep the story alive, each time stopping just short of providing anything verifiable. This time, though, the claim is different. This time, they are not just saying they know who took Nancy, they are saying they have documented it. Video of the primary suspect with Nancy Guthrie on the day she likely died. Pictures of both individuals involved, names, addresses, ages, an entire package of evidence they claim, locked inside a phone hidden in a secure location, protected by a password they will hand over for exactly 1 Bitcoin. Stay with me, because this is where it gets complicated. 1 Bitcoin. At current market value, that is roughly $70,000. The Guthrie family, in cooperation with the FBI, has a standing reward of $1 million for information leading to an arrest. Harvey Levin himself has made this point directly to the sender more than once. He offered to be the intermediary. He offered to collect the reward money, deliver it anonymously, and ensure this person never had to surface publicly or face retaliation. It was, by any reasonable measure, a far better deal than what they were asking for. The response was fear. Fear of law enforcement. Fear of the people they were supposedly trying to expose. Fear of what would happen if they stepped too close to any official channel. Ask yourself why that detail matters. A person who genuinely possesses video evidence of a kidnapping, evidence that could lead directly to the arrest of multiple suspects, is choosing $70,000 over $1 million. They are choosing anonymity over justice. They are choosing a single Bitcoin wallet over a structured, protected, FBI-facilitated reward process. Either this person is operating under a level of paranoia that defies rational explanation, or they do not actually have what they claim to have. There is no clean third option here. Digital forensics expert Heather Barnhart, who has worked on cases ranging from the Boston Marathon bombing to the Brian Kohberger investigation, put it plainly when she first heard the pattern of these communications. From the beginning, she said, something felt off. Real ransom situations do not play out this way. They do not go to the media. They do not escalate publicly through a series of increasingly dramatic emails. They are quiet, transactional, and direct. What has been happening in the Nancy Guthrie case is something else entirely. It has the shape of performance. It has the rhythm of someone who wants attention as much as they want money. And that combination, in her professional experience, is almost always a red flag. But here is where the story refuses to stay simple. Because buried inside these communications are details that are difficult to dismiss entirely. The sender has referenced specific information about the case that was never widely publicized. They have demonstrated knowledge of the search efforts in Sonora State, Mexico, where a women's collective that has uncovered 25 unmarked graves conducted a targeted search based on a tip that Nancy was buried near a stream. Mexican authorities backed that search. It yielded nothing. But the fact that this anonymous sender knew about it, referenced it, and commented on it with apparent familiarity is not nothing. They also stated something that investigators have not confirmed publicly. They said that of the multiple people involved in Nancy's disappearance, only 2 were directly responsible. Only 2 had hands-on involvement. That is a specific claim. That is the kind of claim that either comes from someone with genuine proximity to the truth or from someone who has spent a significant amount of time studying this case and constructing a believable lie. Both possibilities are disturbing for entirely different reasons. This is where you should drop your theory in the comments, because the people watching this case most closely are genuinely divided. Some believe this sender is a scammer, someone exploiting a family's grief for a relatively small amount of money, emboldened by the public nature of the investigation and the media attention it has generated. Others believe there is something real underneath the noise, that the specificity, the consistency of the alias and wallet address, and the escalating nature of the claims point to someone who is genuinely afraid and genuinely knows something they have not yet fully committed to revealing. What do you believe? Because your instinct about this person matters more than you might think. What Harvey Levin did next was exactly what you would expect from someone who has been playing this particular chess match with patience and precision. He asked for proof, not the phone, not the password, just a screen grab, a single image from the alleged video that would confirm the sender has what they claim to have. It was a reasonable request. It was an unanswerable request, if the sender is lying. And so far, the screen grab has not arrived. There is something uniquely maddening about watching a digital trail exist in plain sight and still lead nowhere. Every email that has arrived in Harvey Levin's inbox carries with it an invisible envelope, what forensic analysts call a mail header. And inside that envelope is a record of where the message came from, what route it traveled, what time zone it passed through, and what server handled it along the way. This is not theoretical. This is not cutting-edge technology that requires a specialized laboratory and months of processing. This is basic digital forensics, the kind of examination that experienced investigators perform routinely on cases far less significant than the disappearance of a woman from her own bed in the middle of the night. And yet, here we are, 5 months in, with a sender who keeps coming back, keeps raising the stakes, keeps demanding Bitcoin, and still has not been identified. Heather Barnhart, one of the most respected names in digital forensics in the country, describes the mail header the way most people understand a shipping label. It is the truth behind the package. It tells you where something started, everywhere it stopped along the way, and exactly when it arrived. If these emails originated in Russia and hopped through a California server before landing in Arizona, the header would show that. If they were sent from a device in Mountain Time, consistent with the general region where Nancy Guthrie disappeared, the header would reflect that too. And if the time zone embedded in the message data does not match the region where the sender claims to be, or where logic suggests they would need to be in order to have the evidence they claim to possess, that discrepancy alone becomes a significant investigative lead. This is where things get serious, because there is a possibility that Barnhart raised which changes the entire framework for understanding why these emails have been so difficult to trace. Artificial intelligence, specifically the growing use of AI platforms to generate and send emails on a human's behalf through automated back-end systems. When a person types a message themselves and sends it from their own Gmail account, that message carries a unique message ID and a reply to ID that are tied to their specific account and their specific device. But when AI is used to generate and dispatch a message through a back-end server, those identifiers are absent. They simply do not exist. And law enforcement agencies that were trained in a pre-AI forensic environment may encounter those missing fields and not immediately understand what their absence means. They may be looking at a gap in the data and not recognizing it as a fingerprint. Think about that for a moment. The people sending these messages may not be sophisticated criminals with decades of experience in counter-surveillance. They may be ordinary people who asked an AI platform how to send untraceable emails and then followed the instructions they were given. That is the new reality of digital crime in this era. The barrier to entry for covering your tracks has collapsed. What used to require technical expertise, expensive equipment, and underground knowledge is now available to anyone willing to spend 30 minutes asking the right questions of the right chatbot. The kidnappers or the scammers or whoever is behind these communications may have become dangerous not because they are brilliant, but because the tools available to them are. And yet, Barnhart is careful not to close the door entirely. She has spent more than 20 years in this field, working cases that seemed impenetrable until they were not. She was part of the team that analyzed Brian Kohberger's cell phones and laptop hard drives. She has worked investigations where the digital footprint seemed to vanish completely, only to reappear through a single overlooked connection between a device and an account that the suspect had forgotten they were still logged into. That is the nature of digital evidence. It does not disappear. It hides. And most people, even people who believe they have been careful, are not nearly as thorough as they think they are. The most common mistake, she says, is syncing, logging into the same account on both a laptop and a phone. A person can spend hours configuring their computer to leave 0 location artifacts, disabling every tracking feature, clearing every log, scrubbing every cookie. But then they pick up their phone to order food or request a ride or check directions. And the phone, which is almost always set to share location because that is how it functions in daily life, quietly records exactly where they are. The phone does not care about their operational security. The phone is loyal only to itself, and it remembers everything. If the person sending these emails is the same person who was present when Nancy Guthrie was taken, or if they are someone who has been in physical proximity to the location where she was buried, their phone may already hold the evidence that breaks this case open, not the phone they claim is stashed in a secure location with a password, their own phone, the one in their pocket right now, the one they have carried with them through every communication they have sent, every Bitcoin address they have shared, every moment of anger when Harvey Levin failed to respond with the urgency they demanded. If you have been following this case and you want to see it reach a resolution, share this video. There are people watching true crime content right now who may have a connection to this case that they do not even realize is relevant. Every share extends the reach of this story into communities and conversations where the truth might already be sitting, waiting to be recognized. The FBI has been receiving copies of all these communications from Harvey Levin throughout the investigation. That much has been confirmed. What is less clear is what the Bureau has done with them and whether the examination of those email headers has been as thorough as it needs to be. There is an uncomfortable thread running through the public record of this case. Early in the investigation, when the first ransom demands arrived, someone deposited a few $100s into the Bitcoin wallet that was provided by what appeared to be the actual kidnappers. Not the full amount, not even close, just enough to activate the wallet, which in the language of cryptocurrency investigation is sometimes referred to as tickling the wire. The theory being that an active wallet is a traceable wallet. But the amount was so small and the response so muted that many observers have since questioned whether that decision cost investigators the best opportunity they had to follow the money to its source. The kidnappers, or whoever controlled that first wallet, never moved the funds. They walked away from the communication entirely. And a debate has quietly emerged in the investigative community about whether a bolder financial intervention, one that matched the actual ransom demand or came close enough to be credible, might have produced a different outcome. It is the kind of decision that is easy to second guess from the outside. It is also the kind of decision that, if it was the wrong one, cannot be undone. This is where the official story starts to develop cracks. Not because there is any evidence of wrongdoing by law enforcement, but because the pattern of decisions, the small Bitcoin deposit instead of the full ransom, the documentary offer that was never acknowledged, the reward structure that was rejected by a sender who supposedly wanted money, creates a picture of an investigation that has repeatedly been one step behind the moment it needed to be one step ahead. Whether that is the result of resource limitations, jurisdictional complexity, bureaucratic caution, or something else entirely is impossible to say from the outside. What is visible is the outcome. 5 months, no arrest, a family still waiting. Barnhart believes the answer will come through a cell phone. She is specific about this in a way that carries the weight of professional experience rather than speculation. Cell tower data, location artifacts, account syncing, the quiet accumulation of digital footprints that no one is disciplined enough to fully erase. The suspect, whoever they are, has been communicating, they have been active, and every moment of activity is a moment of potential exposure. The longer this goes on, the more chances the evidence has to surface. Preservation orders filed with cloud providers mean that the data generated on the night Nancy disappeared has not been overwritten. The window for catching someone in the act of covering their tracks may be closing, but the window for finding what was left behind on that original night remains open. There is a question that keeps surfacing no matter how many times you review the timeline of this case, no matter how carefully you trace the sequence of communications and decisions and missed opportunities. It is not a comfortable question. It does not have a clean answer, but it is the question that honest observers of this investigation keep arriving at eventually, and it deserves to be asked directly. If someone genuinely has video of Nancy Guthrie with her alleged kidnapper on what was likely the last day of her life, why is that video sitting on a hidden phone in an undisclosed location instead of in the hands of the people who could use it to bring someone to justice? The answer this anonymous sender has given repeatedly and with increasing frustration is fear. Fear of law enforcement. Fear of retaliation from the individuals they claim to be exposing. Fear of what happens when you surface in a case this serious and this dangerous. And on a purely human level, that fear is not completely impossible to understand. If this person genuinely witnessed something or came into contact with someone who participated in Nancy's disappearance, the idea of coming forward openly carries real risk. That part is not fantasy. Witnesses in violent crimes face genuine danger, and the criminal justice system's ability to protect them is imperfect at best. But the fear argument collapses under its own weight when you examine what this person has actually been offered. Harvey Levin did not just tell them to go to the FBI and figure it out themselves. He offered to be the wall between them and every consequence they were afraid of. He offered to receive the information, verify it, pass it to the family and the relevant authorities, and deliver the $1 million reward in a way that would preserve their anonymity entirely. That is not a trap. That is not law enforcement pretending to be a journalist. That is a legitimate media intermediary with no legal obligation to expose a source offering a protected path to both safety and financial compensation far beyond what was being demanded. The sender turned it down, not once, multiple times, and then they came back asking for a single Bitcoin. This is the contradiction at the center of everything. A person who is genuinely afraid of exposure does not keep reaching out to a major media outlet. A person who is genuinely afraid of the kidnappers does not continue escalating their claims publicly over the course of several months. A person who is genuinely in possession of explosive evidence does not refuse a $1 million protected deal in favor of $70,000 with no protection whatsoever. These behaviors do not fit together into a coherent picture of a frightened witness trying to do the right thing under difficult circumstances. They fit together into something else, something more familiar to anyone who has studied how scammers operate in high-profile cases that generate sustained media attention. Scammers are not always strangers to the facts of a case. They research, they study, they absorb every publicly available detail, and then construct communications that sound specific enough to be credible without actually committing to anything verifiable. The references to Sonora State, the mention of multiple kidnappers with only 2 directly involved, the language about a phone stashed in a secure location. None of these details require first-hand knowledge. All of them are derivable from public reporting, social media discussion, and the kind of deep-dive case research that true crime audiences do routinely. A skilled scammer does not need to have been there. They just need to sound like they might have been. Heather Barnhart noted something that has stayed with me since she said it. When she first looked at the early ransom notes, the ones from the individuals who claimed to be the actual kidnappers, she noticed a difference in the writing quality between them. One note had noticeably better grammar than the other. Her immediate reaction, drawn from years of analyzing digital communications in criminal cases, was that one of them had been written with the assistance of AI. Not because the grammar was perfect, but because it had a particular kind of polished construction that does not emerge naturally from most people writing under pressure. It felt composed rather than felt. Ask yourself what that means for everything that has come after. If AI was being used from the beginning, even by the people who may have actually been involved in Nancy's disappearance, then the digital trail becomes significantly more complex to follow. AI-assisted communications do not carry the same identifying markers as human-generated ones. The message IDs are absent. The reply-to fields are empty. The metadata that forensic analysts depend on to establish origin and authenticity simply does not exist in the same way. And if the person currently sending demands to Harvey Levin is also using AI-assisted communication, either to generate the messages themselves or to mask the technical fingerprints of their device, the investigation faces a layer of obfuscation that most traditional digital forensics training did not anticipate. This is the part of the story that should genuinely unsettle you because it is not specific to this case. It is a preview of what criminal investigations are going to look like for the foreseeable future. The tools that once gave law enforcement a structural advantage over the people they were chasing have been partially democratized. Not entirely, not irreversibly, but enough that the gap has narrowed in ways that matter. Barnhart was honest about this. She said she has always believed the FBI gets ahead of the criminals eventually, that as soon as bad actors get good at something, the good guys get better. But she is less certain of that with AI than she has been with any previous technology. This one moves faster, it teaches faster, it levels the field in ways that are still being fully understood, and yet she does not believe in the perfect criminal. She said it plainly, and she meant it. No one is that disciplined. No one scrubs every trace, disables every setting, avoids every mistake across every device they touch over an extended period of time. Somewhere in the digital record of the months since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, there is an imperfect moment, a location ping that should not exist, a cookie that was not cleared, a phone that was carried somewhere it should not have been while an email was being sent from a laptop that was supposed to be clean. One thread, one loose end, and when investigators find it, and she believes they will, it will not just answer one question, it will answer all of them. The women's collective in Mexico who searched the ground in Sonora State did not find Nancy. These are not amateurs. They have located 25 unmarked graves. They know what they are doing, and they know what they are looking for. The fact that they searched and found nothing in that location does not mean Nancy is not somewhere in that region. It means she was not where that particular tip suggested. Tips can be wrong without the broader geography being wrong, and the fact that Mexican authorities backed that search, that they considered the information credible enough to deploy resources, tells you something about the quality of intelligence that has been circulating in this investigation, even if none of it has yet produced a definitive result. Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home, from her bed, in the middle of the night. Whatever happened in the hours that followed left traces. On the ground, in the air, in the cloud servers that store location data and message histories and account activity for the devices that were present and moving during those hours. Those traces have not disappeared. They have been preserved. They are waiting for the moment when someone pulls the right thread, asks the right question of the right server, or finds the single imperfect mistake that the people responsible for this believed they had successfully hidden. That moment has not come yet, but the communications keep arriving. The sender keeps reaching out. Every message is another chance to leave something behind, another opportunity for the kind of digital footprint that does not announce itself, but does not disappear either. The FBI has everything Harvey Levin has received. The forensic tools exist to examine it properly. The question is whether the examination has been as thorough as this case demands, and whether the people running this investigation are asking the questions that the evidence is waiting to answer. A family is still waiting. A woman is still missing. A phone is allegedly hidden somewhere with a password only one anonymous person claims to know. And somewhere out there, the person or people responsible for what happened to Nancy Guthrie are either watching this story consume itself in speculation, or they are making the kinds of small, human, traceable mistakes that eventually end every story like this one. Justice in cases like this does not always arrive on schedule. It does not always come through the channels you expect or in the form you imagined, but it tends to come because people talk, because phones remember, because one strand of digital evidence, overlooked or underestimated, has a way of pulling everything else into the light when someone finally finds it and refuses to let go. This case is not over, not even close. And if you believe Nancy Guthrie deserves answers, share this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you believe is really happening here, because in cases this tangled, the collective attention of people who are paying close attention matters more than most people realize. Subscribe if you want to be here when the next development breaks, because in this case, the next development is never far away, and when it comes, it tends to change everything we thought we understood about what happened to Nancy Guthrie and why.